Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kamal Onor. Have you ever felt like writing, but you just don't want to? Well, that's what we're talking about today. So make sure if you get any value from this video, give it a good thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And with that said, let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
So you don't want to write? Well, understand firstly that this is okay. It does not mean that you should give up writing or that you're terrible. We all have days when we fight to face the written page. You know, because stars or something.
Julio, tell him. The stars are not in position for this tribute. Like he says, stars can't do it. Not today.
Sometimes it's important to take stock of what's getting in the way of you writing, what's preventing you from actually sitting down and writing. It's so important to analyze your own situation and to understand what is actually getting in the way of you focusing on your writing. What is preventing you from being able to sit down and write? Be any number of a thing that's getting in your way of actually writing. It could be you're going through a change in your life. Maybe you just went through a tough breakup. So whatever it is, you have to figure it out and then you have to work through it. But understand that it's okay to take a break from writing. It doesn't mean that you're terrible. It doesn't mean that you should give up writing forever. It just means that right now you need to focus on getting yourself into a better mental state. You need to focus on your health. You need to focus on yourself. So if you need to take a break, be kind to yourself and allow yourself a chance to take a break. You don't need to be writing 24/7. It's important to write even when you're not inspired. But if it's something else that's in the way of you writing, if it's something that is a change, if it's something that is going on that's a personal issue, you need to take care of this before you start to focus on getting back into writing. It's the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If your basic needs are not being met, you're going to have a very hard time actually focusing on writing if you're constantly being distracted by heartache or being distracted by knowing that rent is due or knowing that you might get fired or whatever challenge you are facing in your life. You need to take care of those before you're actually able to sit down and focus on writing. But if it is just about writing inspiration, then you need to actually make writing a habit. You need to actually practice sitting down and just writing. What I would recommend is you get comfortable doing exploratory writing. Write anything you want. It can be a diary entry. It can be a character description. You can detail a character simply going on a walk to the mailbox. Not everything you write has to be intended for publication. And in this case, we're working on just getting the gears going. We're just working on getting the creative juices flowing so that you can actually sit down and get back to writing. Because especially if you're in the state where I want to write, but I just can't for whatever reason, you need to practice the act of simply sitting down and writing for the sake of writing. Don't be overly concerned with the idea of this has to be publishable, where this has to be fully polished, this has to be worthy of publication. Not every piece of writing gets published. Not every piece of writing should be intended for publication. Sometimes you're writing just to make sure that just to get yourself back into the flow. And if you're watching this video and you feel like you want to get back to writing, but you just can't for one reason or another, you do need to practice the act of just writing for the sake of writing. Make it fun. Write a character wearing a goofy costume, going for a walk or going into a coffee shop and no one notices it. Write that scene and just write that scene, and maybe that leads on to something that you can then later turn into a story. But write something that's fun, write something that's going to be quick just to get the juices flowing, just to get the gears going in your mind. Because the magic of this activity is that you're sort of playing in the sand like you would as a child. You're playing in a sandbox and you're looking for a kernel of something. Now, it might be nothing, and that's perfectly okay. It might be a dinosaur bone, or it might be a piece of pottery, or it might be a glimmer of a story. It might be a glint of a novel. It could be anything. And it's perfectly fine for it, again, to be absolutely nothing as well. This is writing that you are writing for yourself, just to feel like you are in the act of writing and to feel proud of the fact that you are actually writing. Again, not everything has to be intended for publication. Now, if you're really stuck, you can also do writing adjacent activities. You can daydream, you can go for a walk, let your mind wander. There's no knowing when the inspiration of writing might actually hit you. I know several times I'll get an idea for a story just when I jump in the shower, or when I get on the bus, or the moment that I have to go to work. I'll have an idea and I have to scrawl down a note in a notebook, or I have to quickly jot down a sentence into a Word document just to save it for later. But any amount of writing is something that you need to be proud of. You have to fight for your ability to write. Don't get mad at yourself if you sit down at your computer and your hands just won't do what you want them to.
With these hands. These dirty hands.
So use all these tips to help yourself write even when you don't want to. Remember that inspiration can only take you so far. You do need to write when you're not inspired. You need to write when you are inspired. You need to do the most that you can to write as much as you possibly can, but it's also okay to understand that there is time for breaks, and there are time for breaks, and there's time for self-reflection. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself and write as much as you possibly can. And with that, keep it spooky. Don't forget, if you want to support this channel, you can purchase my book off of Amazon.